Hello, everyone, and welcome to the VIDA podcast, where we help educate military veterans and their spouses on opportunities in Web3. Our plan is to host a series of industry leaders, many of whom are veterans or spouses themselves, so that we can learn about their journey down the crypto rabbit hole while understanding opportunities for transitioning veterans in the industry. I'm Chris Perkins, president of CoinFund. I'm a combat Marine veteran who spent 15 years on Wall Street before transitioning into the crypto space. And before we begin, I would like to thank our sponsor, Luca, who's dedicated their time and resources to make this podcast possible. For our 30-second episode, we'll be speaking with New Zealand Defence Force veteran and CEO of DOGFACE and GENERFY AI, MarkTulloch. Welcome, Mark.
Great to be here, Chris.
So, man, this is the first time we've had a New Zealander on the show, and I think this is the first time I've met a New Zealand vet. So, welcome. And where are you calling from right now? What's the name of the town?
I'm in a little town in the North Island of New Zealand called Waihi. Population 3,000. It's actually a gold mining town.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good spot.
Yeah.
If you get over here, Chris, we got to have you over and have some lamb and a beer.
I'm ready for it. Been to Australia a bunch of times. Served with the Diggers back in the day, but never made it across. So thank you. So Mark, tell us about your background. How did it all start?
Yeah, maybe I'll. Well, I was born and bred in New Zealand, but I moved over to Australia. So speaking of Australians, I moved there when I was around 10, and spent a little bit of time there. My wife's Australian. I've got 4 kids. But yeah, after high school, I settled back into New Zealand, and I've had a very varied and broad career. Most of it's been centered around tech, my certifications and qualifications in multimedia. But yeah, when I was 24, I joined the New Zealand Army as an officer. I went into the reserves, spent the majority of my time in the reserves. Did a few years full time. Probably, the biggest regret of my career is that I didn't fulfill the goal to go on operations. It's kind of a good problem to have here in the New Zealand Defence Force, that getting on trips was, quite a challenge. But I did some very cool stuff around counterterrorism here in New Zealand. Probably the highlight of my career was passing the local Special Forces selection course we have here, spending some time training with the SAS. But even that, unfortunately, I didn't get through all the way through to getting badged and being a Special Forces operator. So, yeah, my career was almost like a bit of a hard luck story in many ways. But it's been quite interesting that I spent my whole career wanting to go into combat, and now I'm working in the charitable side of the veteran space, and in many ways now understanding that I was very fortunate to not go through that experience. And I really believe that God had different plans for me in that way. It was a huge chip on my shoulder for a long time, actually, not being able to do that. Probably like a lot of veterans who'd never got on a trip. So that's a bit about my military career.
That's pretty cool. So you're an officer and you were an engineer, right?
Yeah. I went into the engineering corps, and that was awesome. When I was a kid, my hero was always, well, Bruce Lee was one, but MacGyver.
There you go.
MacGyver was the guy that I always looked at, and I was like, man, this guy can do everything with nothing. And when I looked at the different job titles, I said, yeah, okay, this looks really cool. You can, get this combat training, but essentially, be able to do anything with explosives, building, plant.
Yeah.
I'm a passionate engineer.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And what inspired you to join? It's a volunteer. Like, I don't know too much about the New Zealand military, but it sounds like a volunteer force, and you just wanted to go on a trip. It sounds like.
Yeah, it was definitely that. I think the initial catalyst, because I was a professional cricket player when I was in my 20s, probably the initial catalyst was 9/11. Like
Yeah.
I remember waking up one morning, and like I was just in my flat and I saw what was happening, and yeah, that made me quite annoyed. It was that annoyance around, hey, this is not cool. And that was when I went and did my officer selection board. So that was like the initial impetus. But I think the thing that really got me over the line was then we started seeing some atrocities happening in our local region, which was East Timor.
Yeah.
And I saw like some of the, some photos and images that you can't unsee. And I think it was
Yeah.
just that general sense of there's injustice happening, and I feel like I should be doing something to address that.
That's amazing, man. Because first off, you're probably like one of the most interesting men in the world. There you are, half a world away. You're a professional cricket player, and then you join the military. That's a pretty cool story. Were there any kind of experiences that you had, while you served, that kind of shaped your path forward? I mean, you ultimately got into tech, but is there anything that's like, any experiences that you would say defined you, or things that really shaped you and your future based on your service in the military?
Yeah, for sure. I think one was, I think looking back in hindsight was I mismanaged my career. So I was kind of, I just had this mindset of just trying to be the best and be full on and do things. And when I went and did my special forces selection and I passed, I then went to the officer selection component and I didn't pass because I was too inexperienced. And then the commanding officer, the SAS, pulled me into his office, and it was at that time I said, "What if I resign my commission? Can I come in?" And then he said, "No one's ever asked that before." Well, yeah, sure. So I got bumped back to being a corporal, and then ended up, it was a bit of a who dares win situation, and then ended up not making it through. So I think in hindsight, yeah, like when you've got really big goals and want to do big things, I think in hindsight, I should have been more patient about that. I think I should have gone away, not trying to shortcut things and, find a backdoor way in. Was I should have actually just gone away, got more officer experience, backed myself to come back in, because the flow on effect of that was I basically became unemployable after that. And that, yeah, that hindered my ability to achieve that goal of going on operations. But yeah, probably the main thing I got out of my military career was understanding that I do have the ability to do really hard things.
Yeah, I mean, speaking for myself, like I fail every day, and that's where you learn the most. So it sounds like you really learned from that experience. So how long did you serve?
I joined in 2003 and I didn't get out till 2021. So it was, yeah, 18 years.
Wow,
Um,
it's a long
yeah, it
time. But
was a
a lot of that
long
was in
time.
reserve. You probably feel it in the morning
Most of
now.
it, yeah. Most of it, which is like, so it sounds like a long time, but it's like the reserves here we're doing like one weekend a month and one night a month. So if you extrapolate that out, probably the equivalent of, maybe a 5 or 6 year career. So it
Wow.
sounds impressive, but yeah, I it's not something I brag about of having done awesome, amazing
Wow.
things.
Well, I'm impressed. So tell us about your transition. So you're a professional cricket player. You go into the military, and then you transition. I think while you stayed in the reserves. Can you tell us about that experience? Like what did you? How does it work in New Zealand?
Yeah, sure. So to become a qualified officer, you have to do a 7 week course over the span of 2 years. So you go do your initial officer training for 7 weeks. So you have to convince your boss to let you off time from work, and then you go back and do it again. And then once you're through, it just transitions to that monthly training scenario. So I think like I feel like I took away way more from the army than I gave to the army. It was very much from what I've seen in the civilian world. I've never been through formal leadership training.
Yeah,
So I very much saw the military was just very much professional development and leadership training that I
that's pretty
couldn't
interesting.
get in a civilian environment.
Throughout my career, like I've seen people, really bright people, they get promoted and then they get to manage, and they're scared to death, and we're like, wait a second, that's all we knew. So very, very, very interesting. So tell us about your civilian career. So you go into the service, you're doing the reserve thing. Tell us about your career before crypto.
So I've always been a an entrepreneur, and that was from reading Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was 17. And I had that penny drop moment where I decided very young that achieving financial freedom and passive income and multiple revenue streams was what I wanted to do. So um, I just tried and did a lot of things. So I worked as a IT manager. I worked in a telecommunications company. So I've done, I guess, doing the corporate thing, and I essentially would generally spend maybe 2 years, 2 to 3 years going into an environment and working in there. Also throughout that period, I served a couple of years in the New Zealand Police.
Oh
So
wow.
I was a police officer as well for a couple of years. After I'd done my full-time stint in the army, when I got out, I was then at that point going, okay, I'm 30 years old. I knuckled down, got a deposit for a house, and my game plan was to generate wealth through property. And it was like, okay, my wife and I got our first property, did a renovation. I thought, well, what's the thing to do? And it was like, I'm going to go do an adult building apprenticeship and learn how to renovate houses. So I went and did that for a period of time. And that was around the time that GFC happened. And a bit like in the United States, things really dried up here.
Yeah.
So I ended up falling into the fitness industry because I was qualified as a trainer. I didn't really want to do it, but my wife was getting sick of me sitting on the couch saying I'm waiting for the boss to call. So I went into the fitness industry, but I think what I found from the fitness industry was it was similar to the military in that you're working, really early in the morning, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and I was essentially working around these professionals and having to sacrifice my time with family to be able to, fulfill this job, which was like a replica of what I'd been doing. And so I was then like looking for leverage points, and that's when I started my, first really successful company. Over the course of 8 years, I built New Zealand's #1 fitness boot camp business.
Wow.
And we built it to around 20 odd locations. We trained 15,000 people. But all of that was a culmination of, okay, the military experience of understanding systems and leadership of how to build teams with good processes. Combine that with my tech experience to be able to create online courses to certify trainers. And so I merged all of that together and built a really, successful business over the course of 8 years. And that's where I really cut my teeth as a CEO of a company and managing lots of trainers and franchisee owners and then, I mean, I know Chris, but it's like having to master things like marketing and public relations, and so all of that. And it was a huge amount of fun, but I've always been very ambitious. I was like in my mind, I was like, I want to build the CrossFit of boot camps. I want this to go global. But then COVID-19 hit,
Yeah.
and that greatly affected that business at the time.
It's insane how all these cycles you kept getting hit by these challenges, right? And you figured out a way. You overcame and you adapted. By the way, the CEO of CrossFit is a Marine. Did you know that?
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a buddy of mine.
Glassman. Wow, I did not know
Oh
he was a
no,
Marine.
Don Fall.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. I'm not surprised. Yeah, I've got a lot of Marine Corps buddies as part of the DOGFACE community, and I always give them a hard time.
Yeah, yeah, you
But
deserve it.
yeah, well, you can't help but respect the Marine Corps for what they do and what they've done, But it
Uh,
won't
so,
stop me giving them a hard time.
so COVID hits. Your gym business, which gets hammered during COVID. Was that what brought you into crypto?
Well, I'd been investing in crypto as just purely as an investor since 2016. Yeah, I think anybody who spends, 20 hours studying Bitcoin very quickly has the penny drop moment. So I understood the technology, but yeah, in 2021 when COVID hit, I was still focused on, just building this business. We locked down the entire country for like 4 months. Then we
Yeah.
came back, and that happened probably 4 or 5 times, and I was losing franchisees because it wasn't
Yeah.
sustainable for them. And really, there was like no light at the end of the tunnel. We didn't know when this
Yeah.
was going to end. So I was like, okay, I need to pivot into something. And the way I describe it is my version of a midlife crisis was winding up that business, selling it to one of my trainers, selling one of my investment properties, and then because I knew about crypto and blockchain conceptually, but it was actually the lessons I learned from not quite hitting the mark in the military. I signed up to go do a master's in future technologies because, okay, I'm going to do this right. I'm going to lay a really good foundation. And I went and did a master's focused on blockchain and AI.
Wow.
Yeah, from the middle of 2021 through to the end of 2023, I did that and concurrently built out DOGFACE at the same time.
Oh, so tell us about DOGFACE then.
The DOGFACE was in response to initially I had this concept. I'm going to build a hedge fund or a crypto fund over here for people like my dad who want exposure to crypto, but they're not, they don't know how to do it, or they don't want to set up wallets. And that was the initial concept. But in mid 2021, then I started buying NFTs, and I was like, oh my, and it was just really fun and exciting. But I noticed that, okay, what I don't see here in this space is I'm not seeing social impact
Yeah.
projects of any note. It's just a lot of degenerates. And I'm also not seeing representation for the veteran or first responder community. So DOGFACE was the first NFT on the blockchain, which was bringing together veterans, first responders, and really people who support that community. So we have 90% of the community haven't served, but they're, I guess, what you would call patriots and people
Yeah.
who respect people who've
Supporters.
served.
Yeah. They're some of the best people around, by the way. Like, I've been involved in a number of veterans organizations, and it's the non-vets who've really come to our aid and moved mountains that we could never do without them. So I've never got an issue. Definitely don't have an issue with that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Chris. That's what blows me away. Like, I get it if you're a veteran and you've got friends who've died
Yeah.
or friends who've committed suicide. Like, that's easy because you feel it. But it's the people who blow me away are the civilians who come in and just love the community. And yeah, the majority of the people who are part of the community are not veterans or first responders.
Yeah.
And
But it's pretty global, though, right? Your community, and it's people with shared values. Is that the right way to think about it?
absolutely. Yeah, it is. We started with Kiwis, but we've pretty much, I would say, been taken over by the States. But
Sorry about that.
we've got veterans from Australia, Israel, the United Kingdom, Canada, and pretty much all of the, I guess you'd call NATO countries. We've got representation. With the nature of some of the social problems that the United States has with veterans, we've just tended to get a lot more people from the States. When I set up the project, it was very much set up as a DAO, and was like, okay, let's set up a DAO, but then let's also set up a foundation and a charitable aspect to it. But I'm a big believer, and just from my personal experience, is if we can teach people how to fish and be self-sustainable and achieve wealth, then we can help more people. So that was very much the ethos. We didn't pitch it as like, oh, this is a charity. It was very much, let's all come together. Let's take care of our security with crypto. Let's take care of our education. Let's move ahead together in crypto and blockchain, but then we'll carve off 10% of everything we do and then put it into our foundation and have some real impact, some social impact as well.
That's fantastic, man. About how big is the community at this point?
So we got 4,000 people in our Discord. Probably we've pushed out now 3 different NFT collections. So the holder group of like people who are really, I guess, hardcore is probably like 500
Sure.
to 700 people. Yeah, so we minted out a couple of DAO-based collections, but what I figured out was, okay, well, one thing that was very disheartening about crypto for me was I thought we come with this good cause, people love
Yeah.
veterans and first responders, and we're just going to get a massive uptake. And it was like, no, like this is not, the charitable aspect wasn't enough. So then the third collection I put out was a fractionalized crypto mining project. Um, so we've got a small pool of miners over in Arkansas. We've built out a really solid team. So we've got, over 10 guys in the team, a couple of crypto mining experts, and pretty much everyone volunteers their time to the DAO to take care of, that side of it. Yeah, we've done really well in establishing, well, what I still consider this just minimum viable product for what we could do, which is, sell an NFT collection, do some fractionalized rewards across a group. And yeah, now it's just, okay, we're established there and we're just ready to go to the next level.
Just for the viewers, how do you launch an NFT product? Like, obviously, you have to find artists to design it. How does that? Can you just walk through what it takes to launch an NFT series?
Yeah. There's definitely the art aspect to it. So, you would engage an artist. So we got a veteran to come in and do our art. That gets a little bit tricky. I guess I won't get too complicated, but the generative art is about creating traits and
Yeah,
layers. But I think the real backbone of an NFT collection is the smart contract. So the smart contract, the best way to describe it is it verifies your ownership over a digital asset, which gives you membership into a club.
100%.
Um, yeah, that's the best way I could describe it.
I think it's a great way to describe it, and I think that NFTs have gone through some challenges. Obviously, we've gone through a pretty difficult cycle from an NFT. Most NFTs are down by 90% at this point from their peaks. Um, but I've always believed that it's the community, right? Your series are what they're 10K series. Is that right?
No, we started like quite small. So we did a 777 collection. Then we did and that, like, talk about doing things the hard way. That took us like 9 months, to
Yeah.
sell out. But then we did a 2,220 collection that sold out in 15 seconds. And then
Wow.
we did the mining collection was just over 2,000. And yeah, that then sold out very quickly as well. But
That's amazing.
yeah, it's really interesting what you were saying there, Chris, because I operate within the space, but I don't like the way that the space runs. Like, I'm a utility maxi. I'm not
Yep.
there to get involved in gambling.
Yep.
So that's probably why we've had, I guess, a hard time. We're not a hype project. We're very
Yep.
much, okay, social impact and trying to build
Yep.
something around real world assets, crypto miners, which is, it's not sexy. It's just, yeah, it delivers rewards. So we're kind of, we don't really fit in, if I'm honest,
Yeah.
in there, because and the average age of our community is probably like 40. So
Still young men from my and women from my perspective, but that's all right. Um, Tell me about the fractionalized miners. So effectively, you have a community. That community buys into the initiative, and then they share in the rewards that the miners earn out of
yeah,
Arkansas.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. So we mine Bitcoin, Cardano, and then we also merge mine Doge and Litecoin. So we went fairly diversified. And we established a good partnership with a hosting facility in Arkansas. But I guess I'm a big thinker, big picture thinker. We've put
Yeah,
out three collections now, but the real intent was to put out collections across all of the services. So far we've only put out things that are army based, but we want to, as part of the cool thing about NFTs is this whole lore and story aspect to it. So we do have like Air Force, Marines, Navy to come, where it'll add to the story, but it's very much where we want to scale the mining operations. get our own facility. And that's really leading into my goal is to set up a retreat in the United States and have a place where we can, well, one, induct veterans, first responders into Web3 and upskill them, but then also, do some healing. And yeah, we've managed to do some really cool things there. We're partnered with a group called Peaceful Pastures Ranch over in Florida. I went out there and visited them on my trip to the United States. But so I think the thing I'm most proud of DOGFACE is we haven't just talked about it. So we do free Medicaid advocacy through an insurance partner. We deliver real services. So and then we're running our first retreat in November, where we're getting 30 veterans to come along and take part in that program for free. We've got 2 clinical psychologists coming. We've got massage therapists. So yeah, we're very much trying to have real impact as opposed to just talking about it.
Yeah, not too many projects in the space that you come across that are so focused on the utility that you describe, which is profound. I mean, the NFTs, as I see them, they're community formation tools, and the fact that you're using them for good, that's amazing, man. Just really have a ton of respect for what you're doing and what you've done. Thank you on behalf of the rest of the community. I mean, it's fantastic. We'd love to hear about GENERFY AI too, and what you're doing in that initiative. And like one of the things that I think a lot of people are focused on in our space is the intersection of crypto and AI. But maybe you can tell us a little bit about GENERFY AI.
Yeah, sure. The origin story of that very much starts with DOGFACE. It was part of the strategy I've wanted to create is how do I create jobs for people? Because there's a lot of people in our community who I guess are fed up with their normal work. They love crypto, they love blockchain, and they want to find a way to onboard into our industry. Initially, I thought to set up a Web3 agency where, okay, we know how to sell out NFT projects, we'll advise. But I did some advisory work for a large project who I won't mention. And what I found was that it's just very murky and very dodgy, very corrupt. There's a lot of wash trading, and there was just a lot of practices that I saw within the back end of Web3 that I don't want to be involved in. And so then it was like, and also I think the cyclical nature of crypto in general, it made it very hard for me to create a sustainable business where I can find employment for people and then, give them surety of a career. My goal with GENERFY was like, okay, we started using AI tools. Well, I had early access to ChatGPT in 2021. We started using AI tooling within our business with DOGFACE to get things done. And it was like, okay, I'm pivoting away from this Web3 agency idea. I'm going to set up an AI solutions company and essentially build an AI consultancy to be able to, one, get my domestic daily earner back on track here in New Zealand because I'd sold a house and bootstrapped this whole business. And my wife's like, hey, when are you going to get back to, running your company and keeping things on track here in New Zealand? So that, yeah, and through that, that's been going great. So we've picked up a number of like big clients here in New Zealand, and now we've onboarded a few people from DOGFACE, and we're upskilling them to be able to come on and enter into AI. Yeah, so it's exciting. I think it's a very fast flowing river, and yeah, I can see that provided we can get people upskilled in the right way, it's going to really provide a lot of opportunity to employ people over the coming years.
And so, when you're looking to upskill them, are there particular sectors, or is it actually the AI sector? How do you like to focus these folks?
Yeah, sure. I think it goes back to the core product that I'm selling for that company. So I sell AI roadmaps for medium corporate entities where I'll essentially go into a company, meet with the CEO, all of the heads of department, uncover all of the inefficiencies and problems that they've got, and then deliver a report, which is a roadmap of, okay, here's everything that you could do in AI. Here's an implementation plan. This is what it will cost. So therefore, rolling that back to the team, first thing I need them to do is conceptually understand AI. So I put them through the Azure and AWS free courses, so that conceptually they understand what, how do large language models work, how does machine learning work. And then a lot of our guys, because they are like business owners or worked in corporate, is then, okay, then how do I apply that to solving problems within a corporate environment? So yeah, I think life experience helps, if you've run a business. And then and then the main thing is vendor research. Like, that's really the job. It's, okay, you guys are using the Microsoft suite or the Google suite. Here's everything that's available within the Microsoft suite. Here's what it does. So yeah, Microsoft and Azure have done, and AWS have done a really good job at putting together their training packages for people.
Do you spend any time thinking about the like decentralized AI or this intersection of crypto and AI? Have you thought about that at all? Do you think that there's a future there?
Massively, yeah, massively. I think so for sure, because as I move through the space, we started on Ethereum, and now the next collection we're putting out, which is in a couple of weeks, well, we're putting out a Rune token, and now we're putting out an Ordinals collection, which is a way better mesh with our community. So I'm starting to look at a lot of the layer 2 products coming out on Bitcoin, and really in my mind I'm thinking, okay, we've seen algorithmic stable coins fail, which are essentially using AI. I'm starting to think, okay, we've got these two things that I love so much and I know are the future. We got blockchain, which I'm just fully immersed in, and then AI. I'm now in my mind racking my brain to go, how can I marry these two things up? I guess when you're building, often you don't get a lot of time to do deep analysis on projects. But one of the projects that I really only know them because they're New Zealand based and our developer works for them, is the Futureverse. So I've been paying attention to what they're doing around AI and like decentralized communications, and
Yeah.
which I think is quite poignant with what's happening with Telegram.
Yeah.
So no, yeah, I'm very, very interested to see how the two can be meshed.
Got it. Do you have any advice for transitioning veterans as they're thinking about their next steps? You talked about the cyclicality of crypto. I live it every day. I get it. I'm not sure it's going to be as violently cyclical in the future, but like, what advice would you give them? That now that you're spanning, both the AI space and the crypto space.
Yeah, I think the main advice I have for veterans is, the main problem I really see is limiting beliefs, like in oneself. Like, I think a lot of us hear this message that our skills aren't transferable into a civilian environment, and I think we get told that and we actually believe it. I very much believe that if you apply the same, I guess same application you have to apply through your basic training or doing courses, or whatever you did in your career, yeah, you can really make it in crypto and blockchain. I think it's, yeah, believe in yourself, really. I think don't engage in the idea that your skills are not transferable, because when I look to who I want to bring into my team, and I'm sure you're the same, Chris, it's very much like attitude, because I know skills are teachable,
Totally.
so, yeah,
It's passion.
that
So
would be
like
my
the
main
thing I
advice.
look through for most is passion. This passion can get you through anything. Um, awesome. Is there anything about Web3 that is really exciting for you right now? That you as you look at on the future, you're advising a vet to come into the space, and you say, "Hey, I think this vertical is super interesting."
The thing that's really, really exciting me at the moment, and why we, when we sold out our third Ethereum project, why I hard pivoted to Bitcoin, is I think the Bitcoin DeFi is probably going to be the next wave, because if we have a look at, market dominance, well, how much money is locked in Bitcoin? I think when we see DeFi open up, and when we see the ability for people to, engage in trading and, leverage trading, which I personally don't do. Like I'm quite a conservative investor, but yeah, I think that we're going to see market dominance of Bitcoin just really go up when all of this DeFi opens up. The thing I've noticed is, so there's a group called the Bitcoin Startup Lab. They're running a hackathon at the moment, and which I've signed up to for our project, and we're pushing out a concept around a decentralized bank backed by Bitcoin. I think when I look into that, and then you dig a little bit deeper, they've funded around 70 projects in that Bitcoin DeFi space. So I think in the background, there's a lot of venture capital flowing into this Bitcoin DeFi space, and most people aren't aware of it.
Got it. So Mark, you've got a lot going on. You've got the NFT project, DOGFACE. You've got GENERFY AI as well that you're working on. But as I understand it, you also have a startup in the works. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, sure. So I think when you go out and you're doing these, one of the big things about doing AI solutions is you identify problems. So industry-wide problems, and a services company, which I've run, is great, but it's really hard work. It's great for, providing jobs, but to scale, I'm very interested in SaaS products. I started to look for a problem that I could solve, and over here I've essentially identified a problem within the EMT and first responder market. Now, EMTs, first responders, paramedics, whatever you call them, wherever you are, they spend around 40 to 45% of their time doing post-activity reporting. And not only is it it's a huge drain on resources as far as like they're not out there helping patients, but it's also extremely stressful for the first responder. They're often coming in after a late shift and they're spending hours doing paperwork. So this seemed like a fairly obvious problem to solve. So I built a team over here in New Zealand. We've got 3 PhDs, a systems engineer, and then my CEO over at DOGFACE, who works at the California State Warning Center. We've come together and we've built a demo product. And it's essentially a Jetson board, NVIDIA Jetson board that sits within an ambulance with recording devices on each first responder. They go out, do their work, and then when they come back into the ambulance, all of the audio syncs to the hardware, provides a transcript, and then automatically sets up the paperwork, so that at the end of the job, they'll then go onto their iPad, they'll go through, confirm all of the details on that particular job, and then hit enter. So it's very much cutting down the amount of time that they have to spend, and then gets the ambulance out on the road helping more people. So yeah, that's a really good business. We're having a really good response from the New Zealand government, who were sort of in the final throes of our, I guess what you would call it, a seed round, where they're looking to put some money into that. The most exciting part for me is we have 3 letters of intent from ambulance companies in Northern California, where Paul's based. So Paul Benvenuti, who's the CEO of DOGFACE and our health liaison for the startup, he spent 18 years as a first responder, and then he was an operations manager for ambulance companies. So we've now got groups who are going to go out, pilot this product, make sure it's working perfectly, and then get it to market.
That's pretty cool, man. So it really aligns with your values and your background. Couldn't think of a better fit. What a great idea. So thank you for sharing that with us. Really appreciate it.
No worries. I think it's like maybe the mistake I've made, and I think you asked us what would be the advice to, veterans, you asked us a little bit earlier. It's try and get everything moving in one direction.
Yeah.
I think in the past you sort of going off and doing a lot of cool ideas, but now unless there's alignment in behind blockchain, AI, veterans, first responders, I just won't touch it. So yeah.
Got it, man. Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing. Are you hiring right now?
I think in the AI sector I am for sure. The way DOGFACE works, it's very peculiar. So the one thing, but it's really protected our project and community. So we only hire basically people who are investors in the community.
Got it.
So, and when we come on, everything is tokens or NFTs. So no one's being paid, I use crypto. So I would say within that, if you do want to come and be involved in that, we don't stonewall people, but it's a very peculiar thing that you have to essentially, not only is it like an internship, you actually have to pay to be in the group.
Got it.
But it's very much protected our group. We haven't been scammed. We haven't been rugged. But from an AI perspective, definitely. I had quite a big breakthrough here in New Zealand in that one of the top 3 digital marketing agencies in New Zealand is essentially offered to wanted to buy into this AI solutions company. I've closed a partnership with those guys, and they essentially want to take over the digital marketing aspect. And so, we're going to have a lot of overflow of AI advisory work. So, definitely in that AI space, if people are interested, definitely reach out to me.
Do you hire people remotely as well, or they have to be locally based?
No, it's anywhere in the world. I think our only criteria, my main criteria is I don't work with people who are not doxed, who can't get on a camera, and which is weird, right? For me, you operate in this NFT space. A lot of people are, Joe Bloggs 753 and won't turn that. So we're old school.
Yeah.
It's cameras on, it's first names, it's government IDs, so that we hire. We've got Americans, we've got Germans, Kiwis. We're all over the world.
Right on. And Mark, how can people connect with you?
Probably the best way is to come through my X account, just Mark J Tulloch, TULLOCH, for people who are listening. Or Mark at GENERFY .ai would be another way. But awesome. I'm a lot more responsive on X, just the nature of working in that space.
Fair enough, man. Anything else you wanted to share tonight or this morning? Apologies.
No. I think I'm just, I'm grateful, for you to have me on, Chris. Having done, research into what you're doing with Coin Fund, it's been an awesome opportunity to come on and talk about it. If anyone is in Web3 or crypto and I guess wants to come into a community where you can hang out with people who've got a similar mindset or think the way that we do, just come and check us out, come and hang out, and we'll learn together.
I love it, man. Thanks for giving us the time today. And I found the conversation to be fascinating. Thank you for your service. And it was just really informative. We're lucky to have you on the show. So really appreciate it. And also wanted to thank our sponsor, Luca. We couldn't do this without them, and we appreciate the work of the team. And for those who are interested in learning more about VIDA, please connect with us on LinkedIn or Twitter. And if you have any ideas of people who should join us on the show, please reach out to me at Twitter at PerkinsCR97. Thanks again, Mark. Have a wonderful day, man.
Cheers. Thanks, Chris.